real quick before we get into the review, just gotta thank the people over on Patreon, because without their support, a lot of this upgraded content you see on the channel would not be possible. And I gotta say, on top of being able to respond to you guys in the DMs, you know, one of the fun things about the Patreon is every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and there's a lot of good goodies in that one. You also get sneak peeks at videos that haven't made their way onto the channel yet. I'm still figuring out what to do for actual YouTube memberships, so leave a suggestion down in the comment section below. But with that being said, thank you so much for all of you guys' support, and now let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a review for BORO-The episode 206. And now that episode 206 is done in the books, we got a few things to talk about. Number one, we obviously have to talk about that brand new opening and ending credits, because both of them have quite a few Easter eggs in them, and I'm strongly debating actually making, for the first time on this channel, a top 10 Easter eggs slash WTF video for the opening and ending, because there's a lot of stuff that's in there right there. And I know there's a lot of questions from some anime only fans, so we get 1,000 likes on this video, I'll go ahead and get to work on that topic if that's something you guys are interested in. So with that being said though, now that episode 206 is done in the books, man, do we got a lot to talk about, man. So the first thing we need to actually look at is the fact that Team 7 against Boro, we see 3 things. So number one, we see something I've been saying for a while now, which is that all these people freaking out about the karma seal and the abilities and how there was nothing that could possibly counter it. You find out in this episode that you've been basically worried over nothing. Like I've been saying, karma has a few weaknesses and Kawaki breaks it down for you. So what you end up finding out in this episode number one is that karma has a major weakness in the fact that it can absorb chakra based attacks, but it cannot absorb chakra based attacks that are rooted in existing elemental properties. So for instance, if you're using a water style jutsu that is made purely of chakra, karma can absorb it. If you borrow water from an existing body of water and infuse your chakra into it, karma can absorb it. So that's why when Naruto and Sasuke fought Jigen, why all of their jutsu, including Amaterasu, got absorbed by the karma seal. But again, willful ignorance will keep some people saying lava style Rasen Shuriken should have worked against Jigen. No, it wouldn't have. The fact of the matter is that was the worst possible matchup for them. They had no prep time and they had no information, and them boys got handed so much smoke that Naruto and Sasuke got asthma and breathing problems after the fact. Now the other thing that we got out of this episode that was pretty damn important was the fact that another theme of what Naruto is telling Kawaki, which is also a theme of the BORO-The franchise, which is there has to be balance between those people who use ninjutsu and scientific ninja tech. It can't be one or the other. And when you go back to when Naruto was training Kawaki, if you pay close attention to those training sequences, what's the one thing Naruto keeps telling Kawaki? You're relying too much on your scientific ninja tech. Now, when you see Boro, you're seeing somebody that's obviously been a shinobi, somebody that knows how to use chakra, somebody that, unlike Delta, actually weaves hand signs. Everything Delta used was purely ninja tech, and as you remember from the Delta fight, Naruto handedly bodied Delta. Well, in the case of Boro, Boro does understand how to use ninjutsu. Boro clearly has had some ninjutsu training, but when you look at him, Boro relies very heavily on his scientific ninja weapon tech abilities, which means that Boro more than likely was somebody who was a fodder shinobi before Amato got a hold to his body and upgraded his actual body with ninja tech. And I will say this about Boro. Boro had a lot of potential as shinobi because he has the lava style Kekkei Genkai, and shinobi with Kekkei Genkai, whether it be lava release or whether it be the Byakugan or Sharingan, Kekkei Genkai are extremely valuable to ninja villages. What you see with the character of Boro is that Boro's strong, yes, all the inner members are strong, but the reason why when you look at Team 7 and Sarada and Boruto and Kawaki, they get these shots in on them, it takes a lot of strategy. They're not out there just landing direct hits on the dude because they're outpowering the guy. That goes into the third thing that you see from the Naruto franchise, which is that it's not always about power, while power is very important. When you're dealing with shinobi, no matter what the rank is, if you lower your guard, if you play around with them too much, if they can strategize and break down your actual attacks or your jutsu, they have an opportunity to get you and turn the tables on you, which is why I want to point out a major change that the anime made to this episode when it comes to fights. So essentially they downplayed the hell out of Sarada. You can definitely tell that this is Sakura's daughter, because just as a lot of Sakura stuff in the Naruto anime and Naruto Shippuden anime was changed from the actual manga, you're seeing it with Sarada in this key moment against Boro. They took away quite a bit of Sarada carrying Team 7 in this actual fight. So the reason why I bring this up is the whole countermeasures that Team 7 comes up with against Boro is because of Sarada. Going into this actual episode, you heard me say a few times, the only reason why Boro's gonna lose is because it takes two very specific people that can actually counter this guy's attacks. That's why Kawaki says in some ways he's even deadlier than Jigen. So that virus ability, the reason why that was so huge and the reason why I said there's two types of people is in the manga they needed Sarada's Sharingan to be able to actually see the actual virus particles in the air, whereas in the anime everybody can see the particles. That's the change that was actually made. Another thing is that I've said that it takes two specific types of people, because on one hand you need Sharingan to see where the actual virus particles are, and then the other thing is that you need somebody who has immunity to poison. So you would need somebody like Sasuke with the Sharingan, or somebody like Sasuke who has immunity to poisons. You would need somebody like Kabuto or Orochimaru or Mitsuki, people who are immune to poisons. And maybe you could actually say that the Byakugo seal, if the person is aware of it, that the Byakugo seal could actually be a way to counter. So you would have Sakura and Tsunade, but even with Sakura and Tsunade, that's a bit more of a stretch. And the reason why this is so important is that makes it a very small number of ninja who can actually take down Boro. And the reason why it was so impressive that Sarada in the manga was able to catch everything is because Sarada's the one that actually comes up with the counter strategy for how to actually take down Boro. That's why it was so impressive in the actual manga, because she fought somebody that they had an advantage of just because of her being there. That's why she's the one that goes out to confront Boro by herself in the actual fight that you see here in the anime. So that was a change that was made in the manga once they become aware of the fact that Boro's using viruses. That's when Mitsuki's like, hey, you know, I thought something was up, so I grabbed a sample just to be safe. And Mitsuki goes through and gets the antibodies made. So that was true to the manga, but that was a slight change there. And you know, that's why I always say, if you go back and you read the Naruto manga and read it closely, and then you go back and watch the anime, you'll see there are a bunch of small changes sprinkled that change the entire tone of entire scenes. So you're seeing it here with Boruto. And a good way you see this is how in the manga, Sarada, she directly forces Team 7 to retreat. She creates the situation for them to retreat, because she realizes that if things continue at the rate that it's going, they're all going to get killed. So Sarada picks up this giant boulder that is 4 times her actual body size, picks it up, hurls it at Boro, and then she forces Team 7 to retreat. She takes charge. She's a lot like Noelle from Black Clover, where if you're up to date with Black Clover, you know that Noelle is taking complete charge of a situation of what happened in the last few chapters. Noelle wasn't waiting around or anything like that. She took the situation into her own hands. That's close to what you see with the character of Sarada right there. The reason why you should look at the Sarada thing and say this is actually pretty impressive is this is Sarada without any real battle experience as far as with using her Sharingan in this manner. She's already breaking down the fact that the guy's weaving hand signs for his regeneration ability. She's breaking down the fact that he's relying on scientific ninja weapon tech. Her observation skills with wielding the Sharingan are very impressive, but when you look at Itachi and Sasuke, the reason why they're a step above her is the fact that both of them were specifically trained to use their Sharingan to maximize those abilities. You had Kakashi training Sasuke to maximize using Sharingan on top of learning the Chidori during that 1 month time skip where the Chunin exams takes place. You had Orochimaru, somebody who understands the Sharingan very well. Orochimaru worked with Sasuke for the 2.5 year time skip with using the Sharingan, as well as the other things that he did with the training with Sasuke. Itachi was directly trained by Fugaku and by Shisui Uchiha to maximize his Sharingan as well. And so with Sasuke and Itachi, they see a jutsu used one time and they've already broke down the actual jutsu and came up with counter strategies for it. That's why Jigen looked at Sasuke and said, "You're too dangerous for me to leave you alive. It's because of your ocular powers." With the character Sarada, that's where her next step's gonna come from, because if she was trained up to that level with her Sharingan, there's no reason why Boro would not have that weakness exposed and Boro put in a position where they can land a critical blow on the character very quickly, because he's a very arrogant fighter. He's not taking this Team 7 very seriously because he's looking at them and he's physically stronger than all of them. He has the Hack's ability to regenerate instantaneously, and when you do enough damage to where it should actually kill him because his guard's lower, like when Boruto and Kawaki use that Unison Rasengan, which on top of the Karma Seal's power boost that it gives to the Rasengan, Kawaki's transferring his power that's in his Karma Seal that's further advanced than Boruto's right now at the time. Even then, after getting that multiplier on top of it, Boro just gets up and starts laughing as he regenerates. So you're in a situation where Boro's let his guard down, and a Sharingan user who is fully used to using that Sharingan and can come up with the counter strategies, the only thing that you would need now is the actual raw power to take him out in one hit. That's the only thing that's missing right there. So that's why I say it's a very short list of people who can actually fight against Boro and actually take the character down. They have to be immune to the poison, and they have to have the ocular abilities of the Sharingan to get away from that virus that he's actually able to use, unless they have the walking raw power and they've already been made immune to his actual poison. If somebody's immune and they have the raw power, Boro can be taken out, but you need that element of surprise unless you are significantly more powerful than him, which is something you're going to see later on in the actual fight. Boro's worst nightmare, if you can't tell from this actual fight, is Sasuke Uchiha, because Sasuke has the analytical skills as well as the skill with the Sharingan to fully break down all the weaknesses for his jutsu as well as the weaknesses for his ninja tech, and Sasuke has the raw power to take Boro out in one hit. So now that we've actually addressed that change that the anime's done, I can say that there are other small changes that were made to the actual anime version of the fight that actually work a little bit for the better. So one thing that was kind of changed is that before they actually named Sarada the team captain for Team 7, one thing that you see is that there's a lot of coordination between Boruto and Kawaki. In the manga, they kind of charge forward, but in the anime, it does a good job of actually showing the instinctual teamwork that the two have, where Kawaki sees like, oh, okay, so our karma seals are resonating and I can pass on some of my power into Boruto's karma seal to make his attack stronger. That's something that, as you saw in the actual episode, is something that gives them a little bit of an advantage and is something in the future going forward could be something that actually works for them. The other things you see is that the anime took the time to actually kind of play up the importance of one of the themes from part 1 of Naruto, which is that it's not about how strong you are, it's about the move hidden behind the move and then the intention behind the intention. The best example that you actually get from that is when you go back to the Shikamaru versus Tamari fight, where Tamari has more raw destructive power than Shikamaru, but Shikamaru planned out the fight from the beginning. You kind of see that same logic and level of thinking when you get to the whole situation where Mitsuki's like, I'm going to use the lightning style attack, he's going to counter it. Boro's looking at it like, this is so weak, there's such a huge difference in our power, I don't even need to play the elemental chart at this point. Instead of using earth release, I'll just use water release to block the attack. Mitsuki takes that moment to then use the striking shadow snake in order to actually bind the character of Boro. And what you see here is Mitsuki that figured everything out in the anime version, whereas in the manga it was Sarada who figured everything, and then Mitsuki's like, I had a suspicion but I wasn't sure. In this case they made it seem like Mitsuki immediately broke down that aspect of the weakness, and so what Mitsuki does is Mitsuki binds Boro. So the lightning style attack is the diversion. He then binds the character of Boro, and when Boro begins to start swinging away, Mitsuki does two things. He first grabs an antibody, which in the manga he only does it as a precaution because he's not sure. But then in the anime, they make it seem like Mitsuki's also doing it to see if his poisons will work on Boro's body as well. So you see a 4-move strategy all being done in the effort to accomplish one thing that might give them the actual advantage. So the changes made actually brings it closer to part 1 of Naruto. I'm guessing they're doing this as a way to actually set up what you're gonna see in the next episode, where Team 7 is gonna be heavily relying on their teamwork to try and get that advantage on the character of Boro. But the fact is that this was an okay episode, but like I said, it definitely changed the actual tone. You really didn't need to kind of bring down the character Sarada in that aspect. Mitsuki still goes through and grabs the antibodies and helps out in that manner right there, so that wasn't a change that necessarily needed to actually be made right there. The same thing with milking it out a little further and having the character of Kawaki sit there, and Kawaki's even getting to the point where he's like, oh, so I can't absorb this with my karma seal. What's this black stuff in front of me? They changed the whole tone of the fight. Boro in the manga version of the fight came off as a more deadly opponent because it was a virus that you couldn't see without the Sharingan, and because you couldn't actually see the virus in the air, you didn't know that you needed to be poison resistant. So they kind of changed it a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. So what I want to know from you guys is, number one, between Sarada and Mitsuki after the anime version, which one of those characters do you think is more prepared to become the actual tuning for Team 7? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you're a manga reader, let me know how you feel about the changes made here. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.